Tonight, we journey into the magical world of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, a place of wonder, danger, and enduring friendship. We turn our gaze not to the celebrated boy who lived, but to one of his most steadfast, if initially unassuming, companions, a boy whose quiet bravery blossomed under the most trying of circumstances, whose loyalty never wavered, and whose affinity for the earth held a magic all its own. We speak of Neville Longbottom. Before you make yourself comfortable, please take a moment to click the subscribe button. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. Tell us where you're listening from and what challenges you might be facing. Now, let us begin. Neville Longbottom was born into a world teetering on the brink of darkness, the shadow of Lord Voldemort looming large over the wizarding community. His parents, Frank and Alice Longbottom, were highly respected Aurors, brave and skilled members of the Order of the Phoenix, who had thrice defied the Dark Lord himself. Their courage was legendary, their commitment to fighting evil absolute. But this valor came at a terrible price. Shortly after Neville's birth, in the chaotic aftermath of Voldemort's first fall, Frank and Alice were captured by a group of Death Eaters, including the fanatically cruel Bellatrix Lestrange. They were subjected to the unforgivable Cruciatus Curse, tortured into insanity, their minds irreparably broken, their bright spirits extinguished, leaving them to live out their days in the closed ward for permanent spell damage at St. Mungo's Hospital for magical maladies and injuries. Neville, thus orphaned in a most tragic and public way, was raised by his formidable paternal grandmother, Augusta Longbottom. Augusta was a stern, proud, and often intimidating witch, deeply proud of her Auror son and daughter-in-law, and perhaps, in her grief, she placed an immense, unspoken pressure on young Neville to live up to their heroic legacy. Imagine his childhood, a grand, perhaps slightly gloomy old house, filled with the echoes of his parents' past glory and his grandmother's exacting standards. He would have grown up hearing tales of their bravery, seeing their photographs of vibrant, smiling faces from a happier time, and feeling the heavy weight of expectation. Augusta, though she loved him in her own way, was often critical, fearing that Neville was not magical enough, not brave enough, not the son his father was. She worried he might even be a squib, a non-magical child born to wizarding parents, a source of deep shame for a proud, pure-blood family like the Longbottoms. His early years were likely marked by a profound sense of inadequacy and a quiet, pervasive sadness. He was a forgetful boy, prone to accidents, and often seemed overwhelmed by the world around him. His magical abilities were slow to manifest, causing his family, particularly his great-uncle Augie, to resort to rather alarming methods to try and frighten some magic out of him, like dangling him out of windows or pushing him off Blackpool Pier. The day his magic finally did appear, saving him from one such perilous incident, was a moment of immense relief for his family, but perhaps for Neville, it was just another instance of pressure, another expectation he now had to meet. He received his Hogwarts letter, a passport to a world where he hoped he might find his place, but also a world where his parents' story and his own perceived shortcomings would inevitably follow him. Picture Neville on the Hogwarts Express for the first time. A round-faced, nervous 11-year-old, clutching his pet toad, Trevor, who seemed as prone to escaping as Neville was to misplacing things. He would have been a bundle of anxieties, worried about the Sorting Hat, about making friends, about whether he truly belonged in this legendary school of magic. The Sorting Hat, after a considerable period of deliberation known as a hastel, placed him in Gryffindor, the house of bravery, courage, and chivalry, the same house as his heroic parents. This placement must have been both a source of pride and a fresh wave of trepidation for Neville. How could he, clumsy, forgetful Neville, ever live up to the courageous legacy of Gryffindor? His early years at Hogwarts were, indeed, a testament to his struggles. He was often the target of Slytherin taunts, particularly from Draco Malfoy. He struggled in many of his classes, especially potions, where Professor Snape seemed to take a particular, cruel delight in tormenting him. His forgetfulness led to lost homework, misplaced ingredients, and a general sense of being perpetually behind. He lived in constant fear of letting down his house, his grandmother, and the memory of his parents. Yet even in these early days, small sparks of his inner strength began to show. His loyalty to his friends, Harry Potter, Ron Weasley, and Hermione Granger, was unwavering, and he possessed a quiet determination, a refusal to give up, even when faced with repeated failure or ridicule. There was one subject, however, where Neville truly shone, where his quiet passion and gentle nature found a perfect outlet: herbology. Under the kind and encouraging tutelage of Professor Pomona Sprout, in the warm, earthy atmosphere of the Hogwarts greenhouses, Neville blossomed. Imagine him there, amidst the vibrant, sometimes dangerous, and always fascinating magical plants. The air thick with the scent of damp soil, exotic blooms, and strange, pungent herbs. His hands, usually so clumsy, became deft and sure as he repotted mandrakes, tended to bubotuber pus, or learned the properties of gillyweed. He had a natural affinity for magical flora, an intuitive understanding of their needs and their secrets. The greenhouses became his sanctuary, a place where he felt competent, confident, and at peace. He would spend hours there, perhaps talking softly to the plants, his anxieties momentarily forgotten amidst the rustling leaves and the gentle hum of magical life. Professor Sprout recognized his talent, nurturing it with praise and encouragement, providing a much-needed counterpoint to the criticism he faced elsewhere. His visits to his parents at St. Mungo's during holidays were poignant, quiet affairs. He would see them, but they would not truly see him, their minds lost in a world he could not reach. His grandmother would often speak of their bravery, urging Neville to make them proud. These visits, while heartbreaking, perhaps also fueled a deep, unspoken resolve within him. He knew firsthand the devastating consequences of Voldemort's evil, the pain inflicted by the dark arts. This personal connection to the fight against darkness, though born of tragedy, would become a powerful motivator as he grew older. As the shadow of Voldemort began to lengthen once more over the wizarding world, Neville's quiet courage started to emerge more prominently. He joined Dumbledore's army, an underground group formed by Harry, Ron, and Hermione to teach practical defensive magic, a subject woefully neglected by the ministry-appointed Professor Umbridge. In these secret sessions, Neville worked diligently, his determination to learn, to be able to defend himself and others, palpable. He struggled, he made mistakes, but he never gave up. He was fiercely loyal to Harry and the DA's cause, understanding the importance of what they were doing. He faced down Death Eaters alongside his friends in the Battle of the Department of Mysteries at the end of his 5th year, an experience that, while terrifying, also proved to him, and to others, that he possessed a bravery he himself had often doubted. He saw his parents' torturers, Bellatrix Lestrange among them, and though filled with a righteous anger, He fought with a courage that would have made his parents proud. During his 6th year, with Dumbledore gone and Hogwarts falling under the increasingly dark influence of Snape as headmaster and the Carrow siblings as cruel Death Eater teachers, Neville truly came into his own. With Harry, Ron, and Hermione away on their hunt for Horcruxes, Neville, along with Ginny Weasley and Luna Lovegood, reformed Dumbledore's army, becoming a beacon of resistance within the oppressed school. He endured detentions, punishments, and even torture at the hands of the Carrows, but he refused to be broken. He offered hope and support to younger students, standing up to the bullies and the dark regime, his quiet defiance a powerful symbol of resilience. The clumsy, forgetful boy was transforming into a courageous young leader. The greenhouses might still have been his sanctuary, but the fight for what was right now called him beyond their glass walls. The culmination of Neville's journey came during the Battle of Hogwarts. He fought with a ferocity and bravery that surprised many, but perhaps not those who had seen the steady growth of his inner strength. He used his knowledge of herbology to weaponize plants against the Death Eaters. He stood defiant even when it seemed all was lost, when Voldemort presented Harry's seemingly lifeless body to the defenders of Hogwarts. When Voldemort tried to force the Sorting Hat onto Neville's head and set it aflame, declaring an end to the other houses and the sole reign of Slytherin, Neville resisted. In that moment of supreme defiance, with the hat upon his burning head, he drew the sword of Godric Gryffindor from its depths, a feat only a true Gryffindor could achieve. And with that legendary sword, he slew Nagini, Voldemort's giant serpent, and, crucially, his final Horcrux, paving the way for Harry's ultimate victory. In that single, heroic act, Neville Longbottom, the boy who had lived so long in the shadow of doubt and fear, fulfilled the promise of his Gryffindor sorting, honored the memory of his brave parents, and proved himself to be one of the truest, most courageous heroes of the Second Wizarding War. His journey was not one of effortless brilliance or innate confidence, but one of quiet perseverance, of finding strength in loyalty, in passion for the natural world, and in the unwavering belief in doing what is right, even when it is terrifying. After the war, Neville returned to Hogwarts, not as a student, but eventually as the professor of herbology, his true calling. Imagine him now, a respected and beloved teacher, striding through the familiar, warm greenhouses, his earlier anxieties replaced by a quiet, confident authority. He would guide new generations of students, perhaps paying special attention to those who, like him, struggled to find their place, offering them the same kindness and encouragement that Professor Sprout had once offered him. He would share his deep love and knowledge of magical plants, his hands, once clumsy, now expertly tending to the most delicate and dangerous of flora. He found his peace, his purpose, and his own unique brand of magic, not in grand pronouncements or daring duels, but in the steady, quiet growth of the living world around him, and in the steadfast courage that had always resided within his loyal heart. As the story of Neville Longbottom, the boy who found his bravery amongst the leaves and thorns, and stood tall when it mattered most, gently fades into the quiet of the night, may your own hidden strengths find the courage to bloom. May the echoes of his perseverance and the tranquil atmosphere of the Hogwarts greenhouses accompany you into a night of profound peace and deep, restorative rest. Sleep well.